G'day guys, Ross out here in the shed and I am making a batch of soap. See, I've got the tallow and the lye, I've just mixed that together. And I thought while I'm doing that, I might have a little bit of a chat to you about moulds. Now, you can get professionally made moulds, and in fact you can see some here. These are a couple I got off Shein. They look good, don't they? Until you make a soap in them. So if you see that particular one, it's got a nice flower. And in fact, if you look at the finished product, it's not too bad. This is just a one colour soap. You can see the shrinkage there. Now I just want to point that out. See the shrinkage? Now when I poured that in, obviously I poured it in that way and it was tight. And when I popped it out, it was still pretty tight. But over the last week or so, it's probably 2 weeks since I made that, it shrunk, and that is part of the curing process because the liquid actually evaporates out and your soap becomes harder and it lathers better. Now it's a nice looking soap, but had some cuts in the silicone that weren't supposed to be there, and you've got this convex shape, and look at how thick it is. These are thin, tiny little soaps. You know, you even compare it to something half decent, they're really, really thin. So, you know, be careful when you're buying these online, really pay attention to the dimensions. I've actually returned another couple that were half that size again. So silicone moulds are easy because no matter what you make the soap out of, you can pop it out the next day. If, however, you make an oil-based soap, rather than a fat-based soap, so you use vegetable oils, what you find is they stay softer for much longer. And so if you pour them into a mould, they're going to take ages until you can take them out of a mould. And if you take them out early, they're going to stick in the bottom and you're going to lose a nice finish. You're going to look quite ugly, and then you have to clean them all back with a knife or a sponge. Here's another mould. You often see people using these big moulds here. Now again, I bought this off Shein, and it was supposed to come with the piece of wood around it, but it didn't. So what I ended up doing is using some scrap wood and sticking that in there. And this is good for making big soaps. I've used it once so far. Now what I got was this. So quite nice, just a bit of an experiment. This is 2 weeks old, and I can still quite easily press in. Right, you can see just how soft that soap is. That's because that is an oil-based soap. There's tallow in it, but there's also olive oil and castor oil and coconut oil. And that's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks to get hard. And that'll probably take 4 months or even longer before it cures. But the colours look great, and it's a nice creamy soap. Now on the other hand, you can take a tallow soap like this, only 2 weeks old. Very, very hard. That'll take only 4 to 6 weeks to be fully cured. So there you go, just be aware of that. So these big ones are good. What you do have to do is turn the soap out the next day and cut it, because even though it is soft, it will harden up reasonably quickly from a cutting perspective. So you've generally got to cut it within 12 to 24 hours. So just be aware, if you have a mould like this, you do have to turn it out. You can't just leave it in there. So these are the big moulds, and they're not that expensive. That was about $9, and it should have come with a wooden surround, but that got missed. So hopefully they will send one. You can also go to a place like Kmart and just get one of these for $3 and line it with baking paper. And that's just a cheap mould. They're a little bit hard to get out, but again, they make a nice mould for a soap. And I'll tell you what else makes a good mould. Look at that, Camembert cheese containers. And here's one, for example. Again, that's dried a little bit, and that's just a nice size soap, hand size. Some I have big hands, but I mean, that's a good size. And I've got quite a few of those. I've got some here, for example. Each batch of soap goes in its own plastic container. Here you go. And these had a bit of colour in them. They were a bit of a failed experiment, but they look okay. The bottom here is stuck. So you can see it's a little bit rough. You may not be able to see that in the light. And this one is nice and smooth. That's because this one stayed in the mould for weeks. And this one I tried to pull out too early, because this again has olive oil, castor oil and coconut oil in it, as well as tallow. So it's a softer soap, and therefore it sticks in the bottom of the mould. And again, I used this little container here to make these. Not a bad little soap. And even though the colour doesn't look fantastic, a lot of what you're going to do when you start is experimenting. So you know what, experiment, see what works and see what doesn't. You're going to have some failures. And the reality is the failures are still soap. They're just maybe not nice enough to give off to friends or to sell. So you can use them at home and they're quite fine. We'll put that back over there. Now, here's another soap that I've made. I quite like this. I think that's quite a lot of fun. We can see I've made a few of these. Here's a few that I've done with charcoal. Not all successful. That one there you can see has got white around it. That's because that's soda ash, which is when lye reacts with oxygen and gives you that white mix. And sometimes that goes all the way through the soap, and I've got a couple of those. They were a complete disaster, but that's okay. Now how I've made these is really simple. I've taken one of these containers, which is one of these yogurt things. You got yogurt on that side, and you take the top off and you pour chocolate or whatever it is in, mix it up and eat it. So what you do is you make a small soap here, and here's an example. All right, so that's what I did. 2-color soap. It's got a bit of an air bubble in it. And then I take it out, put it on this side, and pour a different color soap around it, or in this case, 3 different colors. So that is a pretty cool way of making soap. And I think that's quite fun. You know, just a little bit of a twirl. There wasn't a lot of room to do any patterns, so I just poured the 3 different colors with the green, and I think that's quite nice. It's an unusual soap. Just a little bit of eucalyptus in that, and I think that's quite nice. And there's another one very similar, and the black ones. All right, what else can we do? Well, we can do things like this. I showed you just a minute ago. This again is 2 soaps. So what I've done, I've got one of these $3 ice cube trays, and I've made some soap. And in fact, I've got one, there you go, came straight out of there. And then all you need to do is turn them out the next day and pop them in to one of these trays and do something on the outside. And there's enough room in there you can do a little bit of a pattern. I didn't in this instance, but I could. And then you can have several different colors. So that's pretty neat. That's a fun little soap. I've also got little hearts like this, and I made some of these. There's a bit of an experiment. Unfortunately, I just got a little bit of soda ash, which is that white there. You can steam that off, but I only made 3 of these just as an experiment. So again, I can put that in the middle of one of these, pour something on the outside, and I've got a beautiful little soap with a love heart in it. So these little things are about $3 each. I've got something like this. Now again, that's a good soap. You can see that the size is about 1.5 centimeters, or about ½ an inch. And what they look like is that, right? So I poured the soap in this instance, that one came out of there. And then on the other side, a bit of a swirl, okay? Again, same with that one, and that one came out of there. So these are a good soap. Now these were poured in, and then about a week later I was making some batter, and it got too hard too quickly, and basically I got soap on a stick. So if we look at these two, they both come out of the same one. That was poured in, and that was pretty much pressed in a real hurry. And as you can see, I've got air pockets throughout, it's all bulged out, and it's a little bit of an ugly soap. So that was just, the batter went too hard too quickly. But that's a good thing. That cost me probably $4. Not very expensive at all. So what I'm really trying to get at here is you don't need to spend a lot of money when you get started. Here's another one. I haven't cleaned this one up yet, but again, I've got the 2 stars in it. And what I made those out of were these. And these are what you get from the supermarket. You know, chicken and rice. So that's the bigger one's the rice side. That's a bit too big for Mould, but the small one, perfect, really nice bar of soap. Right? Cost me nothing because these are just going to go on the recycle bin. So don't throw them out. That's from, I think, some pate, something like that. Bottom of a milk container. Something I got in the kitchen, I don't even know what it is, but I used it and I made this, right? Cool, how cool is that? Again, if you're going to use an oil-based soap, pretty much just put this aside for 3 or 4 weeks. Do not try and get the oil-based batter out because it'll stick. With tallow, you can pretty much bring it out the next day because it hardens a lot quicker. Here's some others, and these are just little hummus containers, all right? So small soaps, slightly bigger. So lots and lots of choices when it comes to these things. So proper soap molds, and you've also got just whatever you can find around the place. And I think I've taken them inside, but you can also get the muffin containers, the silicone muffin containers that you can buy in the supermarket. They make a nice size mold. In fact, the little muffin containers make these little soaps. Quite nice. This has been knocked around a little bit. It's got a little bit of muck on it, but again, a lot of these are experiments. Smell quite nice. Here's one here. Now that was the top of a mini muffin container. We had 2 little mini muffins in it, and that was the plastic top. So I saved it, poured in, and made an unusual soap. These need cleaning up around the edge a little bit, and the colour's a bit dodge. But again, when you first start, you will be doing a lot of experimenting. By the way, get yourself some containers. I've got just a heap of these now, and put in the date, and what's in each one. So this is a kilo of tallow, 250 of olive oil, 200 coconut, and 50 grams of castor oil in these. And that's it. So hopefully you get some use out of that video. Go down and get yourself some of these if you want to make some fun little ones and save some of your containers. All right, guys, thanks for your time. And until next time, stay clean and happy soap making. See ya.